Hello, everyone. Welcome to Book Chat with Kate and Teresa. Did you want to say it?
I'm Kate.
And I'm Teresa. Today, we have this mini episode. Before we get started on this mini episode, if this is your first time here, we wanted to explain a little bit about our podcast. Kate, did you want to explain what our podcast is and who we are?
Primarily, it's important to know that we are sisters-in-law and best friends, and we release an episode every other week at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays. We talk about a variety of subjects. This season, we're discussing books with strong women. It's a book club. So if you're interested in that, we highly encourage you to join us. But for this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what Teresa and I have learned about each other.
We've been working on this since January. We knew we wanted to do this probably since about November of last year, but we started working on it in January, and we released our first episode on February 1st. So we've been doing this for 4 months now. So
Yes.
over 4 months, almost 5 months now. Along the way, even though we've known each other for 11 years now, and we've been best friends for a couple of years now, this has actually taught us even more about each other doing this podcast
Yes.
together. Then we're going to also go into a little bit about what each of us does for the podcast, because it's more than just sitting down, recording the podcast, and then uploading it. There's a lot that goes into this.
There's a lot of behind the scenes work.
A lot of behind the scenes, yeah. And I mean, a lot of that for me is just reading the books, because that takes a long time.
Yes,
So,
I agree. Definitely.
for the first thing, we're going to actually be talking about what we've learned about each other. We've each written about 5 or 6. Kate, what is one thing that you've learned about me?
This one is something that I knew about you, but I've discovered just the extent of it.
Okay.
And that is just how much you love researching and looking into things, and just you don't just read the book.
No.
You go way more in depth. You have questions, you're going to get those questions answered. And so you research the author, you research the time period, or you research the origin of a word from a fantasy novel, which would never occur to me to do. And so I've learned that now. And I love that about you. I really appreciate like that researchy behind the scenes quality. And I've seen you do it now when you read other books, not just our podcast books.
That's true. I do.
So it may be more prevalent with our podcast books, but I also know you do it like with your regular reading.
I think that for me, just reading the book feels so surface level, and I have to deep dive and really just envelop myself in the book that I'm in, and that's how I get the full experience out of it. Personally, you can get the full experience out of it just reading it, but not me. My brain doesn't work that way. One of the things, and we've talked about this already, but one of the things that I've learned about you from doing this series, and it's so weird because it's not surprising, but it was unexpected, if that makes sense. Whenever we're talking about our favorite portions of the book, 90% of the time, if there's a family or a family-like scenario, that's going to be your favorite part of the book. I have to say that I appreciate that about you so much, because we're family. When you're loving on those scenes so much, you're loving on our family and just all of us like hanging out together, and it makes me miss you so much. So I've really enjoyed, and I almost always know there was one book where you didn't have that as a favorite part of your book, and I think it surprised me. Yeah.
So one thing that I knew about you, but it's also been hammered home again, is that you hold your beliefs so close and you do not compromise on them. Like, you have an idea of something, you're willing to compromise with me about like subject matter and things like that. Like, I don't find you hard to work with at all. If you think something about a character and it goes against your moral compass or just a foundational belief, you are going to hold to that. Like, we can have discussions about it, but you are not changing your mind. And I actually really appreciate that about you.
That is so funny that you say that, because one of my answers is you're so much better at looking at the character as a whole than I am. So if a character is doing or saying something that I am appalled at, you have more of this mindset of, let's look at the character's past. Let's look at the whole situation that they're standing in. And there's been times where you've definitely have changed my mind a bit on things, because you're just like, there's more going on than what's happening in just this scene, Teresa.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and I do appreciate that about you, and you've done that in our personal lives. You've made me
Mhm.
think through things in ways that I normally wouldn't have if you weren't there talking to me through it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, and I think that's important to know is these are things that I also see reflected in our personal lives and our friendship relationship. And so that's been really enlightening as well.
also a lot of fun. It's a lot
Yes,
of fun to
very
learn
fun.
so much about each other. Sometimes we're doing it through the fictional world. We're learning about each other
Yes.
through fiction, which is a lot of
Yes.
fun as well.
Which is
So,
one reason to do a book club or read a book with a family member or a
it
good
is.
friend because you
Yeah.
can learn about each other through the lens of someone else.
Yeah, that is true. There's book clubs like through libraries and stuff, which is great. But if you could do it with somebody that you know really well, you're going to maybe know even more about them while you're doing the book club.
Yes. And hopefully you'll still like each other. I like Teresa probably more now. I appreciate parts of Teresa way more now, but I guess you have to be careful. Make sure that you totally like the person.
I mean, I think if there were some things that we clashed on, I'm not sure we could do this book club.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah.
So that was one of mine was your ability to look at characters as a whole better than I do. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my second one for you.
Yes. I appreciate that because that is something I try and do with people as well.
You do, and you're really good at that.
Thanks, therapy.
Love it. Love it.
Uh, One thing that I did not know about you, I could have guessed it about you, I guess, but I haven't had direct experience with this. Your worth ethic is like unmatched. Like you just go and go and go. And sometimes I'm like, girl, that girl needs to take a break. Your worth ethic, I really admire it because I don't think I have that. I really don't. Like, I don't have that drive. I just don't. But I really
That's
appreciate that about you because it also helps me to like try and match that energy and
yeah.
match that ethic, worth
Yeah.
ethic. 'Cause I'm trying to like be as good, like make sure my content is as good as your content. So like we have like continuity throughout the board.
So that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
sometimes I will get a bee in my bonnet and I cannot let it go until it's done. Sometimes I'll have an idea for a clip for social media, even though that's your area, and I'm like, "No, I'm gonna do it because I already have it in my mind,"
Right.
and
And I'm never insulted by that. If anything, I'm just like, thank God I don't have to think of
I
something
don't have to
today.
think about it today. Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I think I sort of knew about you, but I didn't really contemplate it, and now it's really very obvious, is that one of the things that you love is the beautifully written word. More than anything else, you like a book or a story that is going to make you feel good while you're reading it,
Hmm.
and while the story is also important to you, you also just like the beautifully written word. You love poetry. You love a really beautiful description of a scene. And I didn't really realize that about you. And it kind of makes sense. It's this beautiful song like part of your soul. I don't know how else to put
Oh,
it, where you just like pretty things, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
right.
Uh, and it's something that I myself have struggled with because I'm not there for the pretty things. So, and I want to be able to appreciate them. So I'm learning
Hmm.
to stop and appreciate things that aren't really up my alley, but they're more up my alley because I've stopped to start to read
Yes.
those things. So,
I think a great example of that is like my love of poetry, and
mhm,
you like don't have you're not a poetry person
no,
because I appreciate like the flow of the words and things
right.
like that, and you have to have more like action and story and stuff, and I can just
Yeah.
appreciate the words for what they are.
Yes, and I'm really bad at that because I have a really hard time with poetry because in my mind I don't know what's going on. I want it to just tell me what it's trying to say, and I
Hmm.
don't want to try to figure it out. I don't want to read into it, and I don't care what the sound of the words are. So I'm just like when it comes to poetry, but I do appreciate how much you like it and how it's starting to make me not appreciate poetry. We haven't read any poetry yet. We'll get there.
Right.
We'll get there.
Hmm.
But like a sister, a sword and song, you just thought it was so beautifully written, and you
I
loved just the
did.
way that it was written. I just really appreciate that about you because one of the things that it does for me is makes me go back to my childhood when I did like pretty words. Like I liked the
Hmm.
pretty sounding fairy tales and stories, and I don't need to only read adult books that have intense themes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
You also like a good action adventure, though.
I
That was
do.
surprising to me. I didn't know just how much you liked the action adventure. It makes sense to me, especially you being married to my brother, that that would be like an interest of yours because it's very like up Chris's alley as well. But yeah, I did not realize how much you needed that action adventure component of a book.
I really like it. So, another thing that I appreciate about you, and this goes beyond just the reading of the books and discussing the books, but
Hmm.
it is your ability to be flexible. Like I will be struggling with something and you're so flexible. Oh, I haven't been able to put the thumbnail together this week. So you just go in there and you put the thumbnail together. Or there was the time that I was a day late uploading the podcast and you were totally fine with that and you
Hmm.
were not rattled or anything, but and I'm over here sweating bullets like, "Get it together, Teresa," and
Yes.
you were just like, it is what it is. We're
Yep.
I'm like, at this point, this is not a job for us, so why are you
Right.
freaking out,
We
Teresa?"
don't have like we have self-imposed deadlines, but I
Right.
feel like it's more important to give ourselves grace and give each other grace if something gets in the way of that.
And I definitely appreciate that about you because I am so hard on myself. So it's nice that you are not hard on me. Because if we were both really intense about it, I think that maybe
It
we
would be a
wouldn't have.
nightmare.
Yeah, I don't think we would have lasted this long,
No, it would be a
actually.
nightmare. We're a good juxtaposition there. I've learned about you, Teresa, is that, and again, another thing I knew, I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but these were
Mhm.
things like I knew like somewhat, but they've just become more and more apparent as we've worked together in this way.
Yeah.
um, is how honest you are
Oh.
and like about no, it's a good thing.
Okay.
You're so honest about your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings. I don't worry that I've offended you really. Like I do
No.
because I'm me, right?
Right. Oh,
But
okay, sure.
I've also learned that you're going to tell me
Right.
if you think something's a bad idea, right? You're not
That's
just going to
true.
like go along with something that you think is a bad idea and I have to be
That
like,
is
does
true.
she hate it? Is she just
Oh,
like being nice to me?
no,
Does she
yeah.
hate it? And that's something I appreciate about in our relationship because I feel like I can ask you anything and you're going to be like dead honest with me. And I
Right.
don't really have many people in my life like that. I appreciate that I'll be like, Teresa, am I being like terrible about this? And you'll be like, yeah, kind of. But you never tell me in a mean way.
Right,
You're
right.
always like, well, I think yes, but you could, but I get it. Or I
Yeah.
think yes, but maybe you could also like so appreciate that. I so appreciate the honesty and like you're my go-to person for like, Teresa, is this a terrible idea?
I feel like no matter what, I will be in your corner. Even if I think it's
Yes,
a
you
terrible
are.
idea, I'm still gonna be in your corner and I'm gonna support you. Even if you decide to do
Yes.
that terrible thing, I'm gonna be
Yeah,
in your
because there have
on your
been
side.
instances where I'm like, thanks, Teresa, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And you're like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like with the podcast, like when we've read books you didn't love, you're like, but I'm going to read them anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you love them and I don't, I'm still going to read them because I'm still in your corner. I'm still your person. Like I'm still going to read this.
Actually, this leads into what I was gonna say about you. You have worked really hard to also read books that aren't up your alley as much because I know, like, Sense and Sensibility was not something that you normally would have picked up.
Right.
Um, we could both just be like, "No, I wanna read the books that I wanna read." But that
Hmm.
that doesn't make for a good discussion and doesn't make for a
No,
good
it
book club.
doesn't.
And you and I have appreciated your excitement over reading books that you've always wanted to read but have just never gotten around to read. Like you've
Hmm.
always talked about reading Agatha Christie but never have.
Yes. Hmm.
And now that you have, it's like, okay, now you've done it and it was a pretty easy read.
It
So
was very easy. I was surprised.
yeah, now you know that you can go into another one of her Miss Marple books and probably enjoy it just as much because or if not more, because some of her books are really intriguing,
Hmm.
and that's been fun to watch because I know from personal experience that I can be that person that's like, right now, the only thing I want to read in the world is fantasy.
Right.
But this is forcing me to go out and read different genres
It definitely is. Yes.
and I've really enjoyed that. I don't think I've had such a variety of genres in a single year ever.
Yeah, I would agree. Normally, I get in a kind of a rut and I stay
Yeah.
in that rut and then I hop
Mhm.
to another genre and then I stay in that genre and then I go
Yep.
back to the other genre.
Yeah. This is almost like the book club books are almost like a palate cleanser almost. I'm like, "Oh,
Yes. Hmm.
we're jumping
Yeah.
around for a while." So, yeah. So, those are the things that I appreciate about
Yes. And those are
you.
what I appreciate you. That was kind of fun.
That was fun.
What are 3 to 5 things we've learned about ourselves since starting the podcast? Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I can start. I actually am just gonna go ahead and agree with you about the action and adventure thing. That was my first thing.
Mhm.
I didn't realize how much I like action and adventure. We have talked about how I don't really like memoirs, and I'm starting to think that might be one of the reasons why. Is that
Oh, that makes sense. It's so much internal
uh-huh. Yeah, it's like
dialogue and
and
things like that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. A lot of the times it's just that stream of consciousness sort of thing, right?
It's
And
focused more on the internal experience than the external events.
exactly. I have started to appreciate memoirs more. I've now read 2 this year, and that's partly because of you, because you're like, "We should read memoirs," and I'm like, "Ugh."
Eh,
But, uh, now I didn't like Carrie Fisher's, but, I mean, that doesn't mean that all
but
memoirs
that
are
wasn't
bad
necessarily it sounded like because it was a memoir. It was because
of the
you didn't
content.
the
Yeah.
content, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've definitely learned that action and adventure is my preferred, but I'm starting to appreciate things that don't have as much action and adventure.
Mhm.
Will I rate them as high? Probably not,
Right.
because I know myself, and I
It's
like
okay.
a
My rating will even it out.
yeah, exactly, and I like a book that moves, and I've also learned that along with that is I prefer books that have a little bit more depth of thought. I prefer a little bit more of the mind game. That's one of the things I've learned about myself. How about you? What have you
Yes.
learned about yourself?
Well, going along with that, I mean, we've talked about it and it's kind of the contrast to you is I've learned that I'm kind of more of a vibes reader. I appreciate the quiet moments in books, the inner
Mm,
dialogue, the pretty words. I really appreciate books that go in depth to like inner lives and an author that
mm,
really writes poetically. I find Rebecca Ross a great example. The way something is written is as important to me, if not more, than the storyline. Like I read the book The Correspondent recently, and I knew from the beginning that this was not a book Teresa would love because not much happens really in The Correspondent, but it's all about her emotional growth and her inner dialogue and her inner thoughts and experiences.
okay,
And I just loved that book. And I was like,
gotcha.
yeah, I'm definitely more of a relational, internal dialogue, pretty words type of person. I like adventure. I can
Right.
appreciate adventure. I enjoy
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But I'm just as likely, if not more so, to enjoy a book that is more focused on like the internal dialogue, the internal experience of a character that's well written.
That just actually led straight into my second point about myself is, I struggle with the motivations of a character in the moment. And we talked about this when I was talking about you. You look at the character as a whole, and
Hmm.
I don't as much. I feel like I look at the story as a whole and what the character's doing in that moment, and you look at the character as a whole rather than the story as a whole in that moment. So I have I've started to appreciate that you're just like, pull it back, Teresa, basically. um, but the other thing that I have struggled with, and I did know this about myself before we started, is that people have different motivations for things, but I'm not that person. So when a character is being really dumb in a book, I'm like, why? Why are you
Hmm.
being so dumb? I understand I don't have the fight or flight thing going on in this moment that the character's supposed to have, but they're making just like the dumbest decisions, and I really struggle with that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
stop it.
I feel
So
like that's maybe why you also don't appreciate a lot of romantasy
probably
because a lot of times the heroine in romantasy makes
dumb
dumb
decisions.
like decisions that make no sense if you look at them outside
Yeah,
like the character who they are
yeah.
and you just have no patience for that.
I don't have any patience for the morally gray characters either that they all
No,
seem to fall for.
I don't love morally gray characters either, although I think I probably like them a little bit more than you do
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm able to look at them a little bit broader.
Yeah, and I am like, this is a bad person.
Right.
I mean, if I was to really categorize it, a lot of them are in abusive relationships, and I'm just like, this is bad. We should not be encouraging
There's a
this.
reason we
So
don't cover very much romantasy on this
yeah,
podcast.
yeah. Rebecca Ross is great. We talked about it during that podcast. Is that they have really healthy relationships.
Yeah, and if you have, like, if you're listening to this and you have recommendations for us of romantasy or romance that the characters have healthy relationships, we'd love to know them. We would love to know that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What's something else you've learned about yourself, Kate?
I'm learning how to be more direct. And then what I've learned and trust that someone can handle when I give feedback or my opinion, because I'm
Yes.
so used to like softening it
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
like expecting someone not to be able to handle my truth that
Mm-hmm.
I soften it or I talk around it. And you're just like, give it to me.
Yeah, it's true.
What do you mean? Give it to me. What do you mean? And
Yeah.
and you do that you do me the courtesy of doing that. And
Yeah.
so I want to do the same thing to you.
Right. Right. Yeah. Um, one of the things that I remember from I think it was from an episode. No, it was from Sense and Sensibility, where you talked about like if I'm too much, then go find
Hmm.
someone less. And that's what I think about when I start to feel like I am being a little bit too much. I'm like, no, no, I'm not. I am being
Right.
myself and I'm being that direct person that I was born to be. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
I love that. I love that. And I really admire that about you and something like I'm trying to imitate more, especially in our relationship,
yeah,
because I
yeah.
know you appreciate it.
I do appreciate it. For the last thing that I wrote about myself is that, and we've already talked about this a little bit, is that I am rediscovering my love of different genres. Because this is going to be so typical millennial woman of me, but for years I've just been reading fantasy,
Right.
so
Same.
and I mean, I always read a lot of history, so it's been fantasy and history, for like 4 or 5 years now, but we've read some sci-fi, we've read some mystery, we've read classics, and I like nonfiction. I love mixing it up so much. So, and that has almost reinvigorated my love of reading. Like, I've always
Hmm.
loved reading, but this year I've read over 40 books, and I think it's partly because of this podcast and us mixing it up all of the time has been a
Yes.
lot of fun. And I think that's another thing that we can encourage people to do is if you're in a reading slump, maybe mix it up a little bit. Don't read just the same
Yes.
thing all the time.
Try different genre. Try
Hmm.
something new, something completely different.
Yeah, you could be burnt out in that genre that you're reading in if that's
Hmm.
all that you're reading.
Yep.
So just
Yep.
a suggestion.
I too have just rediscovered, I feel like my love of reading, like that I love reading. But
Yes.
along with that, I discovered it's not as easy for me to read as like when I was in high school or middle school or elementary school. And I feel like I've seen other people online talk about this is that those days when you would like devour a book in one setting or like the Babysitter Club or the Goosebumps like in one setting. And I'm not that same person I was. It's harder now. And I think a huge thing, and this is also something I've learned, is that I want to get off my phone. It's because the phone is right there. And it's
Right.
like those dopamine rushes when you get on your phone. So I have to like set timers to read or be like, I'm going to read to 60% of the book today before I put it down. And I love every moment of it. But I have to be disciplined about it. And maybe that's the ADHD in me. And also I have narcolepsy. It's easy for me to fall asleep. Yeah, that's something I've learned that reading also is more of a struggle for me now, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I can't read or that I shouldn't read. It just
Right.
means that I actually have to commit to it because it's important to me. It's
Right.
not only important to me for the podcast, but it's important to me that I'm reading in my daily life.
I remember when we were in Colorado, you, mother, and I were all in the living room reading. You go, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And you were just holding your phone. You're like, "I did it so automatically. I just picked my phone up and I was."
Yes, that is something I'm actively working on is like putting the phone away.
Because mother just sits there and she reads because she read like 3
Right.
books while we were gone, and we were gone for
Yeah.
4 days.
It was so
So
impressive. That's something that she does every night. She just sits and she reads, or like
mhm.
in a spare moment, every spare moment, she has her book out and she's reading. And I'm just
Yeah,
like, I would have
yeah,
my phone out and be scrolling TikTok.
yeah.
And that's something I want to improve.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's because one of the reasons that she can do that is because she keeps her phone down.
Hmm.
So
Yep. Sometimes, in fact, she loses it, which I know I'll call you and you won't pick up because you won't have your phone. And I think a great tip for readers is your rotary phone. You should explain about your rotary phone
yes,
for
and
listeners, not readers.
so put a picture up for people who are watching. I have a yellow rotary phone that is probably from the 1960s, and we bought it and it was brand new. It had never been used. And it is attached to this little Bluetooth box. So my phone rings through to the rotary phone rather than on my actual phone. So I usually keep my phone next to it. It's a basically caller ID. So when I go over there to see who's calling me, I can see who it is and pick it up or not pick it up.
Hmm.
But I usually just keep my phone over there and I use the rotary phone. In fact, the other day, Kate called me and I talked to her for an hour on my rotary phone.
Mhm. Yep.
So
And so you could do that with any, I assume any landline and make it a non-landline, make it connect to your phone with a little bit of YouTube tutorials and
yeah,
Google.
yeah, the device and everything, I think it was like $60 or something like
That's not
that, and
bad.
it might not even been that much, it might have been less, and then, of course, we had to buy the phone, and our phone was a little bit more expensive because it had never been opened, but you could just go to an antique store, and
Mhm.
as long as it says that the ringer's still working, you're good to go, you can just
Right.
plug all of that in. I really enjoy it.
So yeah, I thought that was a genius way to do that.
And I have definitely made it my life mission to be on my phone less and less. So,
Hmm.
and I will say that probably has helped with my reading is because I don't usually have my phone on me while when I'm in my apartment. So,
Hmm.
like
That's great.
understanding that we both read the books and answer the questions and film together, what are our separate roles for the podcast? Explain what your role is.
Yes. So my role is I do most of the social media. Teresa mentioned that sometimes she sends me ideas or pictures or a video that she's done. Like she's always welcome to do that. So and then I'll post it. But right now what we're doing is I'm taking mostly clips from our episodes and uploading them. But I do some editing for those
Mhm.
clips. So it takes me about 30 minutes to an hour a day, every single day, I would
That's
say,
good.
unless I work ahead to figure out what I'm going to post and then like schedule it to post through a third party app at a certain time to TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So that is my primary role outside of like reading the books and the things we do together.
Right.
What
Yeah,
about
and
you, Teresa?
my main role is I'm the editor, and then I publish the actual full-length podcasts. That's what I usually focus on. Kate and I both write the questionnaires, so that is something else that we both do, and then, we both obviously answer those questions, and then we've
Yes.
been editing the questions for each season. So this season, we've edited them so they're, for strong women to gear it towards our theme for the
Hmm.
season.
And we try hard to work together too to pick out books.
Yes, and that's what I was gonna say, and then probably the thing that we spend just a lot of time on is actually picking out the books. It's never just a quick, "Oh, it's gonna be this book." There's a lot of discussion that actually goes into it to make
Yes.
sure that it's on theme and that's gonna be something that's appropriate, because we didn't mention this at the beginning, we are a family-friendly podcast,
Yes, that's
so
important to us.
yeah. So, yeah, we do there is a lot that goes on, and for me personally, whenever we film, I don't have a setup that stays set up, so I always have
Right.
to go and set everything up every
Hmm.
single time we film. So, and right now we're filming at least once a week.
Yes, we are.
So,
Yeah. And I think we also should mention it. Sometimes we record for like 3 hours. So that's a lot of editing to like go through and get it down to an hour and a half or less than an hour or whatever we're
mhm.
doing this week.
And sometimes it is a struggle because sometimes I edit out things that I think are great, but aren't 100% necessary for
Hmm.
the flow. Kate definitely will put things that in clips that aren't in the actual podcast. So you're going to be wanting to watch both. Kate, how do we support each other while we're creating/working on this podcast?
Well, I would say we're really good on being understanding. You talked about this. There was one day that I wasn't going to post till late, and I text you and say, I'm not going to be able to post till late today. I forgot. You're like, that's fine. So you're like
Yeah.
really understanding about that. And I really appreciate that. The other thing is we're both able to step in and help each other with some of their role.
Yes.
I now know how to edit, which I didn't at first, but I've
Hmm.
learned how to do that. And Teresa, like she says, sends me social media clips. If I'm not able to do it that day, I know I can message her and be like, "Are you okay if we skip a day? Or if you're not, do you mind like
Doing
posting
it.
for me?"
Hmm.
And she has access to all of our accounts, so that's easy enough to do. I think we also are first sisters-in-laws and best friends, and second, we're doing the podcast.
Yes, that's true.
So we're able to support each other like in our personal relationship, even though we live thousands of miles apart.
Yeah.
We're able to support each other and be there for each other. So we also know what's going on with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a very good point. Yes, I think it's important that we support each other in our personal lives first, because that's going to help us in the long run when it comes to the
Hmm.
podcast. Because if we're just doing the podcast and we're neglecting our personal lives, things could go awry so quickly. And I
Yes.
think we would maybe not get along so well. I actually pretty much wrote all the exact same things. I said that it's also very important that we've both learned how to do everything now. Like we can both
Yes.
do everything, which is very helpful because last week, or this last podcast that was the Steerswoman, the editing hadn't saved, and so I was very behind, and Kate was able to edit part of the clips or part of the podcast for me, and that was so incredibly helpful.
Mhm.
So, and I was able to get it out on time on the day, which again, we don't need to. That's just our own personal standards.
Right.
But all right, Kate, for you, what do you think the future of the podcast looks like?
I think right now the goal is just to keep growing and see if we can just keep improving how many people are listening or watching and just keep growing our channel. Also, a goal for me at least is to introduce the audience to new books they may not have read.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's an important, like, just personal goal outside of numbers or anything like that. It'd be great if we could monetize one day, but for me, that's not like the point of why I'm doing the podcast. The point I'm doing the podcast is because I love to do it with Teresa. It helps me read new books. Like, we're thrilled we have as many views as we do, even though, like, probably it's considered very low. And like, we love knowing we're introducing people to new books.
Yes. I think for me, one of my big goals is to reach an audience that might be in kind of the background of the book world on the internet. So we've talked about romantasy. There's all those romantasy people out there, but we'd like to kind of hit the fringe, and I would like to hit those people and have them, become devoted listeners because they're interested in different books that aren't being talked about as much on the internet. Like you
Mhm.
said, introducing people to new books. So that's one of my big goals, is getting an audience that appreciates us and what we're doing for us.
Right.
So, and
Yes.
appreciates the books that we're reading, even if they're not books that they themselves would read. I have to shout out my dad. My dad is a devoted listener, even though he's only read one of the books.
I love it.
So, but he tunes in every week, and he'll call me and he talks about the things that he learned while he was listening, even though he's not listening super hard because he didn't read the book, but he still
Right.
was there enjoying just listening to us talk. And if we're not reaching that audience, I'd like to reach an audience that just enjoys listening to us talk.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like that just enjoys being exposed to books
Mhm.
through us, not even reading them.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I have one podcast that I don't even care what they're talking about. They're going to be on in the background once a week, and I'm just going to listen
mhm.
to them talk because they're fun to listen to. And I
Yep.
think that'd be fun to be that podcast.
Yeah,
I think that is everything.
if you have any questions for Teresa or I, leave them below. We'd love to hear from you. And we hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about behind the scenes and about each other.
We enjoy it, and we hope other people are enjoying it. We definitely have some returning viewers, which is so much fun. Give us a like and a subscribe, please, and we will see you in our next episode.
Bye.
Bye. Well, I guess I can do that this time. Welcome. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I like Mary Ann because she reminds me of you. What? Before we get out of your hair, before we leave, can I put you down now? Are you gonna be good?
I'm going to have a book hangover.
Don't get us started on how much we will not be watching Wuthering Heights.